Hello everyone, welcome to my talk. I want to start off my talk today to talk about the great outdoors. The great outdoors is a place that I'm sure you have visited at some point in your life when you've gone outside for a walk along a nice, beautiful stream. You've walked around, you've seen like the trees on the side, and you keep walking a little bit further, and then all of a sudden you see just these huge, beautiful mountains towering overhead, just large in the distance. And then you keep walking a little bit further, then you hear birds chirping, sometimes yelling at each other as well, a little angrily. And of course, you keep walking a little bit further, and then you get to a nice, beautiful, luscious green field. Does that look familiar to anybody? Yes. All right, cool. What I want to start talking about today is greenfields, particularly greenfield projects. Now, in case you aren't familiar with this term, a greenfield project is one that lacks constraints imposed by prior work. That means that you have the entire field to play in, and you don't have to worry about anything else getting in your way. And these are fun projects to work on, a greenfield project where you just have an entirely new repo, get a knit, and you're off to the races just to play with whatever you might want to play with. However, not all projects are greenfield projects. Most, I would argue, are not greenfield projects, and you have to sometimes use what's already there. For example, a greenfield project, and when you have an existing legacy application, you don't want to throw away what was there. You want to actually build on it and like make something a little bit better from what was there. For example, this was a railroad that used to exist on the west side of Manhattan, and it would take meat and other things from the Upper West Side down to the meat packing district, thank you. And you know, it was used for a while, and after a while they didn't have to worry about trains anymore, and it got a little, it wasn't really maintained anymore, and it got a little overrun with like just grass there. Not really the most pleasant place to be. Just like your old legacy applications where there's a little bit weeds in there, and you ask for some bug fix or some feature, and you're like, not your most favorite thing to do. But it's there, and it serves a purpose, but you know, to actually throw away all this work is not a good idea, because to actually spend the time, resources, and money to actually take apart all this railroads is not the thing that you should be wasting money on. And it gets kind of ugly. Not the most fun thing. And that's a large legacy project. And what's my next slide? So yeah, too expensive to discard. And you must build with this. If you actually want to make it better, you have to build within what is already there. So that railroad that you saw was a very large existing legacy project in Manhattan. And they took what was there, and they're like, okay, we have some good, solid foundations. There is some good initial work here that we can actually like use and build on top of. We don't have to blow it up and start again. So let's actually like take what we have and build on top of it. So that's what they did, and that turned into what you know today as the Highline. You might have walked that occasionally. It's beautiful. This is the Highline today compared to those pictures before. And this is a legacy project that they migrated into a beautiful, very popular modern application. People enjoy it every day. It's one of the most beautiful walks you can have. It's so beautiful, in fact, that it's almost too crowded to be enjoyable anymore. But that's how it goes. So that's what my talk is today. I'm talking about the cute term is benchpress your legacy applications, bench legacy, with React, or alternatively known as migrating from Backbone to React. So that's the very obvious, like that's what I'm talking about. So my name is Harry Wolff. In case you can't see me, you can see me there. I don't look exactly the same because time. You can find me. So I work at MongoDB currently. I am a lead web engineer working on the cloud services team. Mongo is definitely hiring, not for my team particularly, but definitely if you want to talk, feel free to grab me afterwards. You can find me on the internets, where I have a very uniformed handle everywhere. So hswolff, hswolff.com. And then I have one last thing that I want to plug with plugs. I had too much fun with this slide. My coworker's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm making a slideshow. So I started a new YouTube show. It's a weekly YouTube show all about JavaScript. It's every week, every late Sunday or early morning Monday that I post a new video. They're between 5 and 10 minutes long, and it's all about news in the JavaScript world that you may have missed in the past week. So for example, this is the channel. Some things that I've talked about in the past weeks is about the Mozilla Developer Network joining with Microsoft and Google to actually make a uniform place for documentation for cross-browser documentation, which is awesome. I talk about Vue 2.5 because if you are a JavaScript engineer, even if you do use React mostly, it still behooves you to understand and be aware of what's going on in the ecosystem. So I do the learnings for you and try to make it a little bit easier. CSS Grid, which I am very excited about. This little thing that some people use called React, I talk about sometimes. You might not know about it, especially being here, but talk about Babel, VS Code, and then of course Node and all those things. Cool, so let's set the stage. So again, I work at MongoDB, I work on the cloud services team, and one of the projects that I work on is this project called MongoDB Atlas. MongoDB Atlas is MongoDB as a service. You make an account, you say, hey, I want a MongoDB database. We make it for you, we spin it up, and you get back a URI that you can then just use in your application. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'm so impressed I practiced with that line, I said it again. But again, this is the UI. This is a very large web application that you can monitor your MongoDB instance. You can spin up a new cluster. You can get alerts. You can do backups. Anything you want to do with Mongo, you can do here. So when I started at Mongo a year ago, this entire application was written entirely with Backbone.js and Marionette.js. If you are not familiar with Marionette.js, it's more of a high-level view management system for Backbone. That was good. So a lot of our data in our application currently resides in Backbone models. This is what a Backbone model looks like. You have Backbone.Model.extend, where you're making a new prototype for a Backbone. You have here where you are instantiating an instance of that Backbone model. And then you can actually query methods and ask what data is inside of there. So this is saying, what plan do you have? Is your plan type a free tier? Atlas does have a free tier, plug. So then you can say what's going on and the UI changes accordingly. So if we wanted to use this Backbone model in our new React components, because right now we are in the midst of migrating from Backbone to React, we want to reuse these existing Backbone models, so we want to actually take a Backbone model and use it in a React component. So live demo for fun and profit, enhance. Smaller, bigger, bigger is better. All right, is that too big?
It's never big enough.
That's very true. Thank you.
One character at a time.
Yeah, I'm the other character here. So we have here, this is actually from the, this is the repo. This is actually from this code sandbox that you can then play around with later. Don't do it now, listen to me. So here is an initial example of a manual way in which you would share a Backbone model with a React component. So you have here, we're making a user model. We are instantiating that user model with the name of Harry. Laughs, yes I do. Often, loudly. So we have here the component, where at the bottom we are passing in the instance of that Backbone model as a React prop, as the user prop. Let's scroll back up. We have the render method where we are taking props.user. Again, remember this is the Backbone model user instance. And a Backbone model you query for its information via these get methods. And this is back in the times when the best way to have dynamic behavior was through functions. So this is the Backbone way of doing things. And then we get the name property. And then we want to then render the name. Then we have an onSubmit for when we actually want to change our name. So let's go up to onSubmit. And I have a local state of the new name that we want to change. And this is for demonstrations purposes only. But I'm going to change my name to Barry. And then set change, and nothing happened. So in the onSubmit callback, you see I'm calling props user.set, where I'm saying, set the new name from the state value, but nothing's happening. I click this, nothing's happening. I look at the console, Whoa dear. You can see that it's actually, let me clear that. Things are happening, but not in the React land. ¿Por qué? The reason is that because React has not been told anything about this backbone model that's being changed. It's enclosed inside of there. So a very easy way to get this to work is we can call force update. So now if I hit Barry2, works right away. So cool, I got that fixed. I got this working, great. I am the best Backbone React programmer that ever coded today, October 30th. But this is not the most pleasant thing to use. This is, every time I change a Backbone model, I'm gonna have to call force update. I don't wanna do that. So let's jump back to the slides. So one thing you should also know about Backbone is that the Backbone models actually emit events when things change. So here I am subscribing to the change event, and when I change the Backbone model, this callback is called. So you see at the bottom it's saying settings.set hello, set it to world, and then the callback is called, and you can see that last assert model.get hello equals world. So Marionette.Views are built to be used with Backbone models. They listen to these change events in their Backbone models and then update their template. React does not, as you would imagine. So let's make our code a little bit better and let's make React listen. We're gonna pinch its ears and say, listen. So this is my demo going through changes. I go here. Nope, yeah, I go here. And I go there. This is the code sample that you can then see online, but I'm literally just going to swap to example 2. Bueno, okay. So here, it's the same code as before, except now what I'm doing is that in component.mount, I'm setting up a listener. I'm using the all event in this case. There are multiple events that are fired. Then I'm having the callback be backbone callback, which is just doing force update. So again, same thing at the end of the day. I do this. I hit change. Wonderful. But of course, if I'm making a listener, if this React component then unmounts, I want to also then unmount this listener because I want to be a good netizen and not leak events everywhere. And again, this is better. Like I can now just in my callback do .set and things just work because I'm actually tying these two things together. However, for every individual React component, having to do this is not going to be the most pleasant experience. So this is why we created connectBackboneToReact. connectBackboneToReact is a library that makes it easy to use Backbone models within React, taking the knowledge that we saw from the previous 2 slides. That's the URL for the repo. It removes that boilerplate code that you saw. It makes a standard API between Backbone and React. It mirrors the API of React Redux for familiarity and a good experience, so you have less to relearn. And also, the best thing is it can be tested in isolation, because this special bridge code is going to be a sensitive part that is going to be shared everywhere, and you want to make sure that it doesn't break, because that would just break everything. So many bugs. The horrors. So there's other options as well. I'm going to skip this because you can read about it online. So what this lets us do, this library, is it lets us actually use the same Backbone models for our Marionette.Views as our React components. And as we have our trees of Marionette.Views, we can then start from the bottom up, from our leaf nodes, to start converting them into React components. And then we can start going up and up the tree while still using the same data source. Because if you do use Redux, you know the power of having a centralized location for all your data. And by duplicating data, you can cause bugs. So this allows us to not have to worry about that concern. And that's what I just said. So again, without connectBackboneToReact, we would have to write this every time we used a Backbone model. I even forgot about component will receive props, because if the props change, I also want to have that set on there. So there's all this boilerplate code, which is just, no, bad. So instead, with the connectBackboneToReact, it looks like this. Much less code. There's the component at the top. We have the higher order component creator connectBackboneToReact passing in our component, and we get back our connected component. Connected and cool. I had like a subtitle for all these demos because I have too much free time. Okay. What show? What show? Thank you. No points, but you get 100 points, but no prizes. It's the whose line is it anyway rules. Yeah, exactly. Cool. See, this is the connect backbone to React example, where again we have the same user instance. I am Harry, and I still do laugh. Where I have my component, and at the bottom here, let's see the meat of this connect backbone to React. Scrolly, scrolly. Cool. So the way in which you create a connected component to Backbone is you have connect Backbone to React. And the first argument, if you have used React Redux, React Redux, the first argument is map state to props, where you take the Redux state and then you map it to props for that component. I stole that similar idea because stealing is caring. And created a map models to props, that being map backbone models to props. Here we're given this object, this models object, where this models object is actually being provided down here from this models map, where you just make an easy to use mapping of like any and all backbone models that you may have to like keys on an object. So this user instance is existing on this user property. And here we're taking it off of here. And then we're just directly passing through the entire backbone model to the component. So here, again, same code, name. There is none of that boilerplate code. Let me do this. No boiler spoon. And it just works. So cool, that's fine. However, I'm not content with this example because it still, my React component, while not having to worry about listening to the Backbone events, still knows too much about Backbone for my tastes. It knows about having to do user.get, having to do user.set. Yeah, not in my house. So let's go into another example. I have no, what's another example song? I got nothing. All right, cool. So this is the full expressive, my recommended way of using connect Backbone to React, where you have this map models to props. Again, we have this models object. We take the user property, which has the user instance, right? The user up here, which is the user down there. And then because, again, we are mapping models to props, we are returning an object which will become the props of our components. And all we're providing here is we're doing the Backbone-specific code in this function. So here we're saying user.get the name. We're just passing the name as a primitive, as a string primitive. And then we have a function called setName. And this is how we actually can change it. This could be, if you have used React Redux, map dispatch to props. Felt like that was a little bit of an overkill, so that was not included in this library, but that's the same guiding principle. Where in here, we're just then using user.set. Again, just all the Backbone code is encased right here. Then if you actually look at the component, we have two prop types of a name, which is a string, and a set name as a function. So we can then use these two things where we have this.props.name, and we have this.props.setName. Woohoo! So that's great because now we can actually test all these different parts in isolation, where we can actually have this component that knows nothing about Backbone. And let's say someday in the future we actually decide to remove Backbone. By having this separation of concerns, our path towards there becomes less of a burden. So this is a little forward thinking, but putting the work now so that we don't have to worry about it later. Cool. So cool. So, oh, shite. All right, so again, Greenfield projects are great fun. They're beautiful, they're wide open, there are no limits there. However, most of the applications in existence today are legacy applications. If all projects were Greenfield projects, what would we use day to day? Like things have to last longer than a year. And if you can actually take what is already there and then build on top of it, you get things that are pretty damn impressive, like Manhattan. So here are the links about which I talked about. That's my face again. That's my YouTube show. I put the slides up online already, which was fun to upload them and then like edit the slideshows afterwards, but I couldn't then upload them because I uploaded them. Like this little meta thing. But that's the talk. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully if you have this use case, you can then make it a little bit easier for yourself.
So we have time for 2 real quick questions.
Thanks for the talk, I appreciate it.
Glad you enjoyed.
So I'm curious, using Backbone with React, what was the desired use case? Since React kind of is a view layer, Backbone is an older, blah, blah, blah.
It's a legacy application. Like, so it was done by necessity that the entire team wanted to start using React. However, there was no opportunity to completely redo the entire application. It was too big, it would take too long, just would not make sense in any capacity. So the existing application used Backbone.Models. So we took that and figured out a way to slowly and incrementally migrate to React. So it's just born out of necessity.
Awesome. One more.
So I'm actually working on this exact use case, so thank you very much for your presentation. And so my question is, and pardon me, because I'm not a pro in Backbone, so this might reveal my ignorance of Backbone, but could you do something similar for listening to changes in, like, for example, collections? And is that already in your library? Awesome, thank you. That was my question.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.